All right, so we're joined here with Jeff from Oakbound Studios. We've had an interview before with Jeff some time ago on the Chronic Command podcast, so I'll leave links below for that and to Jeff's YouTube channel as well. So go and check that out. But I brought Jeff on again to go through his wonderful collection of HeroQuest, advanced HeroQuest models and dioramas that he's constructed over the course of the years, because I've seen some pictures that popped up on Facebook and through his videos and that kind of thing. So I thought I'd bring on Jeff to the Evie Led video series. So Jeff, thanks very much for coming on, mate.
Welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
People who are watching this now can see this image, which looks uncannily like Les Edwards' cover from the HeroQuest box set.
Does. It's a great tribute to Boris's sculpting that diorama.
Yeah. So tell us about this, mate, because I thought I'd share this picture for the very first image that we'll see, because people might actually be fooled to think this is actually the Les Edwards illustration or painting, but in fact it isn't. It's actually a diorama, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So this is a number of years ago now. What? 4 or 5 years, something like that, possibly even more than that. My sense of time has gone completely nuts. But Boris, whose surname I won't try and pronounce,
me either.
Incredible sculpts based on the box art cover, and he's since done a range of sort of not HeroQuest miniatures for Zealot miniatures that are very heavily inspired by them. But yeah, he produced these figures to make up the characters who are on the HeroQuest box. And that was a very sort of short run project with Diego, who runs Nightmare Miniatures. They did a little, I don't think it was crowdsourced, but they were sort of asking for people to make pre-orders, and then they cast to order, I think. So I don't know how many of them were made, probably only maximum 100 sets, I would have thought, not many at all. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to get my hands on these guys, and wanted to see if I could reproduce the box art, as his sculpts were so close to the characters on the box. So then it was a bit of a case of trying to play with camera angles and things to try and get it to work. So on my blog, there's a post of plotting out the baseboard and where all the figures go, and these guys are spaced so far apart. I mean, I've actually got the diorama sat next to me now, and it's about a foot square, so it's quite deep, and the barbarian is right against the very front of it to try and get him big enough to be swinging his sword over the heads of the orcs and in between the flights of steps. So it's obviously quite a large hall that they're adventuring in, and a fairly sparsely populated one. There's not that many figures there, but it works obviously for the box art. And I was trying to get as close as possible. You can kind of see, if you have a look around the edge of the barbarian, and then around the edge of the dwarf and the orc and the elf and the wizard and the zombies on the right hand side, there's quite a fine white line. That's because I wasn't actually able to get all of the scene in focus from the camera position, so I've had to adjust the focus for each kind of layer of the diorama, and then superimpose them on top of each other. So that's why there's a bit of a line. I finished this during lockdown in 2020, and didn't have access to the camera that I'd used to plot out the baseboard in the first place. So it's not absolutely right as it was when I initially planned it out. I should probably go and retrieve that camera and take a photo with it to see if I can get it a bit more accurate. But it's pretty close. Pretty happy with it. It's missing a couple of big orc heads in the front.
Mate, it's absolutely stunning. Honestly, I saw it on the Oldhammer community. Like, I think they had it as like the banner image, and I was fooled at first. I thought, wow, this is just incredible. This is like a rendition of Les Edwards' classic HeroQuest artwork. And then I realized, looked closer, and I thought, oh yeah, it's actually they're actual miniatures. And then it dawned on me, oh wow, this is actually someone's diorama. And then I realized it was yours, and I looked further into it, and I found some images of it, and yeah, I was really blown away. Then I realized, they're all Boris's models,
Yeah.
and you got to give credit to Boris in his execution of like he could actually recreate all those models perfectly in the right poses, the right facial expressions.
Yeah.
That's just
stuff.
blowing me away.
I've seen a couple of versions that some people have done and put on Thingiverse as digital sculpts, which are nice, but they don't quite have that refinement that Boris puts in them. These are some actually, if you look at them in person, they're quite slender, very, very finely detailed figures. It's I don't know how he gets the level of detail that he gets. He must have extremely good eyesight. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and he's using like really crude kind of tools for his sculpting too, like just like pins and that kind of thing. Not like the fancy sort of.
Don't knock the pin. The pin is one of the most.
Oh yeah, no, I was just really surprised that he's like just using a pin, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, this is one of my favorite tools I use for sculpting, and this is how I achieve certain different techniques and effects with it. So yeah, no, he's a really talented guy. But mate, you pulled it off beautifully. Let's go through some of the first sort of pictures that we saw here. That you had your ideas sort of planning out how everything would look and positioning and that kind of thing. Talk us through the process, man.
So that's just trying to get sort of relative height. So I've gridded out some foam core to try and work out spacings of where the models would actually be in the cameras, sort of just slightly off left off that image there. So I was trying to work out the relative position, and then that will determine the heights of the various steps and the way that the stones kind of converge. There's some very odd perspective in this painting, which you'll probably see if you've got some photos of it slightly more finished. You'll probably see that the stones on the floor have this very odd kind of convergent what's it called, perspective, which is very strange trying to work. There you go, you can really see them there. They kind of converge at the bottom of the staircase, which it works from photographing it from the angle down in front of the Barbarian, but it looks very odd, especially with the staircase not following that perspective. It looks odd from all other angles. I think the reason that it looks so odd in the original painting is actually because if you look at Les Edwards' sketches for the image, it's not one big long staircase. It's two separate staircases, one coming down from each of the archways, and in between them, I think there's even a third archway. So actually, the distance in the middle of the diorama should be a lot greater than that depth there, and should be projecting beyond the final back wall. But I didn't want to do that because in my head, ever since having the box art as a kid, it's always been one staircase coming down the back. So that's the image that I had in my head of it. So even though that's not what he actually painted, that's what I wanted to do. So there you go. You can see the kind of convergent, and also that the front, the bottom step is a lot deeper and a lot longer than the other steps. And again, that's just to force the perspective from one particular angle. So if you crouch down directly in front of it, it looks okay. If you look at it from anywhere else, it's a very weird, exaggerated feature.
Now you've managed to capture the warmth and texture when painting your diorama. What was the process behind that? What kind of colors did you choose, or what did you do a bit of research behind it, or?
Yeah, I did a few tests. It was quite a long time ago. I can't remember exactly what was there, but those are all Foundry paints, and if you can get in close enough to read what's on them, that's what they are. The color of the image on the actual box is quite different to the color if you look at the high resolution image that's in the Les Edwards art book. The color is quite different. It's a lot more yellow on the box art, but again, that's the image that I was more familiar with, so I wanted to go with that sort of earthy reddish. There's quite a lot of the terracotta color in there, and then trying to give an object source point of lighting where that torch is on the back wall as well. It kind of feels to me like there ought to be two torches, that one ought to have a mirror the other side of the other archway as well. Whether the barbarian's head is just completely blocking it in the picture, I don't know. But
yeah.
I can't see the kind of flare. If you look at the image on the bottom left there, you can kind of see the torch flame going up above where the barbarian's head is on the right hand side. There isn't anything like that on the left hand side, so I think maybe there is only one torch, but who knows.
Yeah, maybe not aesthetically pleasing if you did put that light behind the barbarian's hair or something like that, and you probably just thought, "Oh, I'm not going to include it."
The barbarian.
Yeah,
but that's
haloizing
kind of plume of green stuff just sort of twisted onto the back wall there and stretched out, and then dry brushed with an orange and a yellow, and then a white with that as the central point.
Wow! And the tape measure there with the camera, is that sort of like sort of just measuring the distance?
Yeah, so that's because it is set for one very particular camera position, and that is the position, but that's not the camera. That's a different camera. It's got the closest lens that I could find to the one that I designed it off, but it's not quite right.
All right. Okay, so here we got the individual models here featured in this wonderful lead rot kind of spin off on the heavy metal pages, which I love.
Yeah, I can't remember who did that. Someone on the Oldhammer forum produced a template with the different. There's like a grey one and a kind of brownish one and a slightly greenish one. So yeah, all the different templates for creating fake White Dwarf pages. They're lots of fun to play with.
And if people didn't know, your online handle is Finn McCool. So if people have seen you online, then they know exactly who you are now, Jeff. So there you go.
Yeah,
your identity's been revealed.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the complete set that people would have purchased through Nightmare Games.
Yeah, from that core set, there was an extended version that had some Chaos Warriors with different weapons. There was a gargoyle. There was a Famir. I think that might have been it. But the core set was expensive enough. I couldn't quite stretch to the full set.
Yeah, I bet, mate. I bet. Yeah, it's not cheap. So here we're going into your classic.
The plastic ones.
Plastic, yeah.
Yeah.
And aren't they still beautiful though? Like even after all these years, and I know you changed the sword on the elf, which is something I had to do as well.
The elf and the barbarian, actually. The barbarian's long, slightly round broadsword is now a bit squatter. That's off a Mark Coxton barbarian, that one. They both snapped off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these were... I painted these in, I think, 2008 or 2009, something like that. So they're getting on a little bit. I think I could probably revisit them a bit better now, but they still have a special place on the shelf.
Of course, mate. Yeah, they look gorgeous. Yeah. Now, here we go. I like these guys. An advance request. We're stepping up. We're getting a bit older and we're getting a bit wiser, and we're sort of upping our game here. But advance request, often overlooked by its former predecessor with HeroQuest, but Advanced HeroQuest is one of my all-time favorite games. I didn't really get to play back in the day, but I love the concept behind it. I love the miniatures and everything. But did you have a lot of fun playing Advanced HeroQuest, mate?
Not as a child, no. I didn't pick up Advanced HeroQuest when it was out. I managed to get it in the late 90s from a car boot sale for I think £1 or something like that. Wow. I never really played it until a few years ago. I played a lot of HeroQuest and a little bit of Warhammer Quest as well when that came out. But I think actually Advanced HeroQuest, perhaps not so well known, but it's my favorite of those three, of the kind of old school dungeon bashing games. We play now quite regularly at Bring Out Your Lead. We have a Sunday morning relax, chill game of Advanced Hero Quest, which is always a lot of fun.
Awesome. And I take it some of these, because I know you've been online on the Facebook group, trading groups, and that kind of thing, searching for the prototypes, the metal prototypes. Is this one a particular metal prototype? This one?
Yeah.
Here?
So all of the ones that you've shown so far are the metal prototypes from this set. I didn't have Advanced Hero Quest or play it much as a kid, so it doesn't have quite the same sort of nostalgia as Hero Quest does for me. So I'm a bit less keen on the models, but they're very nice, and they're much easier. Not that they're easy, but they're much easier to get the metal prototypes for Advanced Hero Quest as rather than the ones from Hero Quest itself, which are extremely difficult to get a hold of. But when I was at the Old Hammer Day a few years ago, I was given the metal Advanced Hero Quest prototype dwarf. And you know what happens if you give a collector one part of a crazy mission to go and collect the whole lot and reproduce them. So that's my full set of heroes in front of the original ones, the McVeigh painted ones in the Foundry cabinet.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yeah, outstanding.
I couldn't quite get both lot in focus. I really need to work on my photography.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you can see some wonderful Space Crusade Chaos Marines, which I think are some of the best Marines they ever made. And the classic Android, I take it they're all sort of metal prototypes.
They're all the metal prototypes in that cabinet. There are a few plastic Advanced Hero Quest henchmen and Skaven, but I think other than that, everything in there is a metal one.
Amazing. Yeah. That's wonderful. So yeah, I'm very happy for you, mate, that you got all the metal prototypes. I've never seen one like, up close in person kind of thing, and I didn't even know there were metal prototypes. That's something that sort of became more aware of, having seen some posts about it. So that's interesting.
Yeah. I was always aware from the Hero Quest box art that the figures on the side didn't quite match up to the figures that came with the game, but I didn't know why that was until much later.
So this is one of the metal prototype henchmen, I take it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So that was the first one that I managed to get a hold of. I've managed to acquire a second one since then, which there's an interesting story about, and maybe when that photo pops up, we can have a bit of a look at that.
Well, sorry, mate. We'll go straight into the Hero Quest collection that you've painted up, which is quite an massive models. I'm quite jealous, as I've only got four heroes painted up. Indeed so. Now, are any of these metal model, like from the prototype, or plastic?
Those are all plastics from the box. I had, with the exception of the snotlings from Warhammer Quest, you've crept into the front there.
Sure. Yep.
But aesthetically, I think that
I was going to ask you about that. Are snotlings something that was like a fan-made addition to the game?
I don't know, but almost certainly. The thing about Hero Quest is that basically there's fan-made anything that you want out there. So I'm sure someone's written rules to put snotlings into the game.
And I like how you've actually gone to the painstaking process of actually cutting them off their square base and putting them on round bases. And I quite like the look of round bases.
Such a pain. It really was such a pain because it's such hard plastic. It's so easy to snap everything at the ankles. And then you've got to cut away the big chunk of the plastic base that remains. It was a bit of a labor. I think it's worth it. I think it's totally worth it. And I don't even care that it's green bases in a dungeon, because that, again, it's the image from the box art. It's the image in the magazine. The prototypes had these green bases. So that's what's in my head. So that's what I've had to go for. but yeah, they're not easy to remove from their little plastic squares. It's really irritating that they didn't come with separate round bases because all of the Space Crusade stuff did. I don't know why they did it with one and not with the other game. It's very strange.
Yeah, and then I suppose Advanced Hero Quest all came with round bases, but the frustrating part with that was the squares were too small.
Yeah.
For you to allow to enjoy having round bases. So,
and these round bases are too big for the squares of the Hero Quest board. But there's a workaround for that, and I'm sure we'll see it later on.
Right. Now, these are metal prototypes, I believe. Yeah.
These are not metal prototypes. These are. I wish. So, was it beginning of? I think beginning of last year, or certainly over kind of Christmas last year. I thought I'd have a crack at sculpting my own versions of the metal prototype. So these are my sculpts. The guy in the middle, the guy in the green hood, is Morcar. He was sculpted for an Old Hammer Day a few years back. So he was a free figure at an Old Hammer Day, and he is based on the illustration of Morcar from the Marvel Winter Special, Marvel Comics Special.
Right.
The others are me trying to replicate the sculpts from the photographs in the advert to varying degrees. I'm really, really happy with the Famir. But then that's my big love. So I was always spend more time and attention on him than on the others. But yeah, I'm quite happy with how they came out. So I have a full set of my own sculpts as well.
Mate, you did exceptionally well. The Chaos Warrior in particular is really, really nice. And also the Goblin and the Orc come out beautifully, and the Mummy. So yeah, mate, you convinced me. I thought honestly, I thought they were real, genuine metal prototypes.
The slight issue is that they are rather small compared to the plastic figures. So if you put the Chaos Warrior next to the others, he's definitely a micro Chaos Warrior by comparison to the bigger ones. But yeah,
I was going to say Morcar looks like Doctor Doom, but then I'm mixing up DC with Marvel, which is heresy apparently.
Is it? Okay.
I don't know, mate. Apparently so. I could have offended many DC fan out there, or vice versa. But really cool. So not only are you an accomplished, terrain builder and scenery maker, but also a miniature designer and a painter. So you got all the skill sets, mate.
Well, we try. Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
So these are my attempts at the heroes. The elf dude there has a rather large chin. Not quite sure why that happened, but
yeah, mate, these look great as well. And I was actually going to say that I could see there was, I don't know whether they were your particular designs or someone else's, but yeah, they look really great too. Very, very, very close to the original models. Now these guys, now there's a couple of familiar ones here, but I'm thinking the elf is is that a Gary Maldy model?
He's a Marauder elf, so he would be an Ali Morrison, I think.
Oh, right.
Certainly the one on the right is a Mark Copleston Grenadier Barbarian.
Yeah.
But with his axe swapped out for a big sword. The one on the left is the 90th anniversary, 10-year anniversary White Dwarf figure.
Right.
And then the High Elf Mage, because it's really hard to find a wizard in the Citadel catalogues that doesn't have a beard and a big pointy hat. So that was the closest that I could get to the Hero Quest wizard. This is just me collecting figures as proxies, trying to find figures from other ranges that would match as the heroes.
Yeah, great. There we go. Now I've got maybe one of your designs, one of the original plastic ones, and some metal ones.
Yeah, so you can see what I was talking about size-wise. The guy second from left is my little YMCA dude. And two of the regular plastics, and my proxy, which is he's one of the early speciality sets Chaos Warriors figures with a different skull and helmet stuck on. Although there is a head in the range that has quite a similar sort of ball and horn helmet, but he doesn't have a skull face. He's got kind of blanked off face. So there's a Ralph the skull on the top there. The guy on the left hand side, the plastic Chaos Warrior, has actually got springs in his wrist, so he can do jazz hands.
Right.
But I at some point I'm going to have to get around to doing a full kind of YMCA lineup of quite how I'm going to heat the hands to get them in the right positions. But
there'd be great catches for Blood Bowl or something, I think.
Yeah,
right? Exactly. Perfect recruit. Yeah. Now this is from a set I'm not actually very familiar with, because the latest expansions I never got to see or play. But this is from one of the expansions, yeah.
The Storm Mage from the Wizards of Morcar supplement to expansion, and that range. There's 4 figures. There's a High Mage, a Storm Mage, an Orc Shaman, and a Necromancer. And those figures seem to have been a bit more popular. The Necromancer figure is you can see photos of the metal version in one of the Citadel Undead Army books, so there obviously were a few of them floating around, so it's a little bit easier to get hold of the metal prototypes for those. So that one on the left is the metal prototype, and the one on the right is the plastic that came with the game. And I've managed to pick up the Orc Shaman as well, but the Necromancer and the High Mage these two somehow elude me still. So the one on the left there is the plastic one from Wizards of Morcar. The second one in is my tribute sculpt.
Nice.
Then there's a plastic Necromancer, and then my sculpt Necromancer next to it.
Right, I've seen the plastic Necromancer then. Yeah, okay. I've seen him around.
Yes, I've seen him in plastic in various places, but there's definitely photos of a metal one in White Dwarf. I haven't seen one actually come up anywhere since, but they must be around. Orclord has sets in his collection.
Oh, Orclord's got everything, mate. Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have a lot of the Hero Quest prototypes, which is why I sort of have decided that I'm probably never going to get my hands on them. But if he doesn't have them, they must be completely unobtainable.
I think this is the closing image here, mate. So this is the orcs from the.
Okay, so this is the plastic on the left, and my sculpt in the middle, because I only very recently acquired the actual one, and then the actual metal prototype on the right hand side. So it's a bit of an escalation in scale there, because the prototype is quite significantly larger than the original plastic one.
Yeah, these are amazing. I think I actually saw that. Now that the metal one's on the right, is that right? The metal.
Yeah, right,
yeah, I think when I was in the studio, I actually saw that model in one of the figure bins they had in the studio there.
Oh, cool.
As a tin. Yeah. But I was actually really tempted just to take it, because I thought I've never seen this model before. I don't know where it's from, but I felt really bad about it, and I put it back. It looked really cool. I thought it was like an unreleased model or something.
It is. It's an unreleased prototype. Yeah. It would be really interesting to try and track down. I've not managed I've had conversations with Bob Naismith, who was the chap who was overseeing the design of the Hero Quest figures, and with Trish, who was on the team, and neither of them can remember exactly who sculpted what. They all think that people sort of chipped in a little bit at a time, and then maybe people who are really good at recognizing sculptors' traits would be able to identify who was behind which.
But this one is definitely Kev Adams' design, yeah?
Do you think? Because I'm not sure.
I'm sure of it. I'm positive of it. That's definitely like I actually thought it was a 40K Weird Boy, because that's the sort of design that Kev would have. Now,
that's very much that,
the skull definitely looks like a Kev skull. Yeah. The face definitely looks like iconic, Kev, orc looking face. The hands, very exaggerated. They definitely look like Kev's. So yeah, I'm putting my money on it. It's a Kev Adams design. I'm actually gonna I'll email him. I'll say, mate, look at this. Did you actually design that? I'll let you know about it. But yeah, my money's on it that it's Kev, mate. So, but Jeff, this has been a wonderful look at your collection, and thank you very much again for coming to join us to talk about it. And I hope, and I'm sure people who watch this will be very inspired to, like myself, to paint my original box set of HeroQuest and maybe
do it. They're great figures. I'm always saying to people who knock the HeroQuest plastics that they say, oh, they're very basic figures, they're a bit clunky and the detail's not very refined. But I think they were designed for quite young kids getting into the hobby. And if you're just getting into painting, they've got some nice big areas of clothing and lots of recesses. So all you need to do is put a base coat and an ink wash over the top of them, and they look brilliant. So I think actually, yes, they're fairly rudimentary figures in terms of what we would now think of in terms of plastic design and even metal figure production. But for what they were supposed to be when they were released, I think they're actually a very clever design. So I think they're some of the best figures produced for what they're supposed to be produced for.
Mate, I've always said that. I've always said, I've looked at, various board games over the ages, and I looked at the miniatures and I thought I'm really disheartened by them because, HeroQuest has sort of set that standard, almost 30 years ago now, making the best hard plastic models for a board game that I've ever come across. And I think they're still testament to that. And, of course, modern games and board games come up with some wonderful plastic models nowadays, but I still think that the original HeroQuest models are just unbeatable for what they are, for their time period. Look at stuff that Fantasy Flight came out with, which are absolutely atrocious, in comparison to HeroQuest.
But designed with a very different intention in mind. I mean, I don't think Hasbro designed the new HeroQuest with sort of young children getting into the hobby in mind. I think they designed it with nostalgia collectors in mind, or and just kind of slightly missed the aesthetic slightly. So it's a very different idea. But yeah, I'm not so keen on the style of the new ones.
Yeah, me too, mate. But I'm glad it's sweeping through another generation of HeroQuest players. So I'm sure they'll discover the original sets and want to play those too at some point, or even swap out all the miniatures and that kind of thing. But anyhow, Jeff, mate, it's been a really fascinating talk about the history of HeroQuest and your collections. And thank you very much for joining me this evening.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Okay, mate. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you again for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed our Evie-led presentation of Jeff's HeroQuest models and miniatures collection. If you'd like to see more content, please follow the links in the show description to our podcast, our Patreon, and our Hero Hammer fanzine. Thanks for watching.